Good afternoon. Dan Gaffney in for Vince. And on my Dan Gaffney Newsmaker line, we want to welcome in, first of all, philosopher and energy expert, Alex Epstein. He's written an incredible book I highly recommend, Fossil Future. You can learn about that at fossilfuture.com. And contrary to what governments and politicians are telling us around the world in a push to eliminate fossil fuels, I believe Alex will argue that that is a very dangerous position to take and could do us great harm. That's one of your ideas, I believe. Alex, welcome to the show. Could you walk us through some of your thoughts on eliminating fossil fuel and what that might do to us?
Of course. Well, thanks, Dan, for having me. Great. I know we've written each other, but great to actually talk. So if you think about, we have a little bit of an issue with this, with even talking about rapidly eliminating fossil fuels, because I consider it to be the most destructive idea that human beings have ever come up with. And it is unfortunately also the most popular political idea today.
Yeah.
And I mean that literally. If you look at what governments agree to, what corporations agree to, what financial institutions agree to, it's all some form of carbon neutrality or net zero by 2050, which effectively means eliminating the vast majority of fossil fuel use by 2050. And the reason why I think this is literally the worst idea ever is because fossil fuels are what make the world amazing today. And we really underestimate that, but the world today is amazing. And there's nothing that can come close to what they do in terms of providing energy that is what I call cost effective. So it's affordable, reliable, versatile, so able to power every type of machine, and then scalable, available to billions of people in thousands of places. My argument is, well, cost effective energy is what makes the world an abundant and safe place because it allows us to use machines to improve our lives. Nothing can come close to fossil fuels for the foreseeable future. And billions of people lack cost-effective energy today. So I think the default thing is we need more fossil fuel. But the way that we're taught to think about it is to totally ignore the benefits of fossil fuels and only focus on negative side effects, particularly any kind of negative climate impacts. This doesn't make any sense for any technology. If you just thought about the negatives of antibiotics, that would be ridiculous. It's particularly insane for fossil fuels because fossil fuels, any negative climate side effects they have can be offset by benefit. One of the key benefits we get from energy in general and fossil fuels in particular is the ability to neutralize climate danger. So making it cool when it's hot, making it warm when it's cold, neutralizing drought via irrigation and by moving crops from one place to another. So what we find is fossil fuels have actually already made us far safer from climate. And what I call these climate mastery benefits can deal with any conceivable climate change in the future. So we need to be using more fossil fuels, and we need to reject this terrible method of thinking that makes us only look at the negatives of fossil fuels.
Which is why it's fascinating. This is why we need a philosopher's view here, because you're telling us how to think about something, not just think about something, but how to think about it. Just that simple equation. Don't only look at the negatives, look at the benefits. That would be a fair way of looking at this and a way of thinking about it. And you point out that, all of the wonderful benefits. I mean, our society has grown to be, as you say, a safe and healthier place around the entire globe due to these fuels, right?
Yeah, it really is remarkable how much of it comes down to philosophy, because I was a philosopher first, energy expert second. And it's been really valuable to learn a lot about energy issues and environmental issues and climate issues. But the basic thing is just how to think about it. You called it a fair way. I often call it an even-handed way. So you look carefully at the benefits and side effects of things. And it just shapes everything else. I mean, a couple other ways in which philosophy are involved I talk about is being really clear on your goal. So when you're talking about, hey, we want a better world, but what's your goal for the world? Do you want to? I say we should make our goal for the world should be, let's make it a better place for human flourishing. So let's change it in ways or keep it the same in ways that are good for human beings to live long, healthy, opportunity-filled lives. But actually the dominant way we're taught in terms of the goal is let's make our goal impacting the earth as little as possible. That's where this net zero thing comes from. Hey, let's make the whole goal of society, let's not have any impact on climate. And more broadly, let's not have any footprint. I say that's an anti-human goal. Why would your goal be to eliminate the impact of our species? I say let's advance the flourishing of our species. And that's another way in which it totally changes how you think of it. And then finally, there's what I call this assumption that the planet is a delicate nurturer, that it somehow exists in this delicate balance and our impact ruins it. And the truth is that's not true at all. The planet exists as what I call wild potential. So it's dynamic, it changes all the time, it's deficient, it doesn't give us nearly enough usable resources, and it's dangerous. It threatens us all the time. And human impact is generally a force for good. We take a deficient and dangerous place and make it into an abundant and safe place. And we should be proud of that. And fossil fuels are a key mechanism.
Well, you talk about human flourishing. Would it be safe for me to assume then that the anti-fossil fuel movement, the most dangerous idea in human history, I believe you referred to it as something like that, is to keep humans from flourishing? Is that what people want? I mean, there's a zero population theory that kind of weaves itself into these ideas. Maybe they don't want human flourishing.
Well, I think first and foremost, we want to establish that is the effect of these policies. So the effect of these policies is dehumanizing the earth, as in reducing the population radically in a very cruel and destructive way. I mean, population, you can't support a population of 8 billion people without modern natural gas-derived fertilizer and modern oil-powered machines. There's just nothing in the foreseeable future that's close to being able to do that, among all the other benefits we get from fossil fuels. So the effect of this movement would be to ruin the earth for humans. And then there's a question of, well, is that an accident? And I think it's largely an accident on the part of the people, because I think most people are just deluded and don't realize there are all these benefits they'd be sacrificing. But I think the leadership, I talk about this a lot in Chapter 3 of Fossil Future, I think the leadership really does believe that our goal should be to eliminate human impact on Earth. They think human impact is an evil, and it shouldn't exist. They think the best possible Earth is the one that would exist had humans never existed. And I think that's an anti-human goal. And listening to anyone, I don't care whether they're a scientist or not, I would never listen to a scientist who's against humans, because even if he understands all the mechanisms, he's going to give you anti-human advice, just like a doctor who is on the side of the germs.
He doesn't want you here, he doesn't want your children here, and he doesn't want you to have grandchildren or any it's interesting that they want to eliminate everyone but themselves. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, often sometimes there's a self-hatred with that. Sometimes it's hypocrisy. Sometimes it's, oh, well, the Earth should only have 1 billion people, and I want to be one of them. P.J. O'Rourke once referred to, the overpopulation idea as just enough of me, way too much of you. But sometimes, even if they include themselves in their anti-humanism and they have self-loathing, that doesn't make me very assured.
On the global warming question, which also comes into play here, you also point out, and I believe you, and I don't want to misstate what you're saying, but if the Earth is warming, even due to our own practices, right, that's still not necessarily a bad thing. There may be great benefits to a warmer Earth.
Well, there can be. So if we talk about this idea of carefully weighing benefits and side effects, when you're looking at the side effects on climate, you have to look at negative and positive. So you have to look at, okay, what are the dangers of more warming, but also what are the benefits of warming? And this is a world in which far more people die of cold than of heat. Now, the main benefits involved are the benefits you get from the energy. So even if the warming were negative, the benefits from the energy, including your ability to deal with warming, would be far more significant. It's again, it's a totally non-even-handed. It's a totally biased view where you only look for negative side effects and you ignore positive side effects and you ignore benefits. And you just think about it logically, like, okay, the Earth gets a few degrees warmer in a world where far more die from cold than from heat. And we're talking about, okay, modest sea level rises and maybe some storms become more intense. Is this really going to overwhelm the human race? I mean, we live in every climate imaginable in the United States right now. Think about Florida, Alaska, Texas, like this huge range of climates. We can all live to 80. and a few degrees of average change are going to overwhelm us. It's not a real view. It doesn't make any sense.
Even
at
from
all.
you say, look at it logically. I've even thought about, let's say the Earth warms. We have colder climate farming areas where their yield would increase if they were warmer. It would increase. You might have drought in some areas, which would reduce yield, but you'd have other areas that would increase yield. You got to look at both sides. It's a great way of thinking.
And without this bias against human impact, I think that's the real evil here. I talk about this again in chapter 3, is the most philosophical chapter of the book, and then it plays out in the rest of it. But this idea that human impact is immoral, so it's wrong for us to impact the Earth, and then that it's inevitably self-destructive, that the Earth is somehow going to punish us for impacting it. The truth is the Earth punishes us for not impacting it. That's why human life was terrible for the average person for most of history, because we couldn't impact the Earth much, and we had to deal with its naturally very inhospitable state. It's machines that allow us to have a major impact, so we can turn the deficient planet into an abundant planet. We can turn the dangerous planet into a safe planet. We can turn the low opportunity planet into a high opportunity planet for the typical person, right? Kings had some abundance and some safety and some opportunity, but we have more than that, just a typical person now. And we should really like our species. We should be on Team Human, and we should get rid of this self-hatred. I mean, imagine a lion that wanted to eliminate lion impact. It's just as insane for a human to want to eliminate human impact.
My guest is Alex Epstein. Fossil Future is the name of the book, and I know you have a website for the book, fossilfuture.com. You have a lot of other places where people can learn about you, a Substack, and you're on X or whatever. I'll give you the final word to send our WMAL listeners your way. Where would you like them to go?
Go to the website energytalkingpoints.com, and then sign up for the newsletter. We have talking points, so very concise, well-referenced, powerful points that hundreds of politicians use, thousands of influencers use, and they're all free, and you can get tremendous benefit from them. So it's kind of my life's work divided up into little tweet-length points, and I think your listeners will find them very valuable for their own, but also for sharing with others. So energytalkingpoints.com.
Thanks for being on the show today. Keep up the good work. I hope to talk to you again, Alex Epstein. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
that
Dan.
is a great place to go, energytalkingpoints.com.